From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In the NoCo. I'm Brad Turner, in today for Aaron O'Toole. Federal wildlife officials asked the public earlier this year for feedback on how Colorado's wolf reintroduction program was going. It's been 2.5 years since Colorado wildlife managers began releasing wolves into the wild. And one of the responses from the public contained a stunning admission. The owner of one of the largest ranches in the state said, in writing, that a worker on their ranch had recently killed a female wolf to defend livestock on the property. That's a serious admission. Killing a wolf is illegal in Colorado and can come with fines or jail time. Ranchers are required to try other methods to protect their livestock before using a lethal option. So, what does the death of this wolf and the rancher's admission about it say about the status of Colorado's wolf reintroduction project? Tracy Ross covered the story for the Colorado Sun, which is a partner of KUNC News. She talked with me about what she found out. Tracy, before we talk about this admission from the rancher, set the stage for us a little bit. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service asked the public for feedback and got hundreds of responses, which you reviewed. How would you characterize most of the responses?
They actually got probably more than 1,000 responses. And I think it's pretty, reflective of the way that the public in Colorado feels about wolf reintroduction right now. There were a lot of comments asking to stop this program because they believe it's not working, it's not good for the ranchers, it's not good for the wolves, that CPW is actually not doing the best job that they could be doing. But then there were a lot of comments from people who support wolf reintroduction and who, were like, look, we're into this thing. Let's keep going with it.
CPW is Colorado Parks and Wildlife.
Yes. Yeah.
Susan Nottingham owns a large ranch in Eagle County, and she submitted her story about why her ranch hand killed a wolf. What jumped out at you when you read that among the other public comments?
Well, for starters, this is a major revelation, right? Like, we have had wolves in Colorado that we know people have shot, but never before has anyone come forward with any information ever about a wolf shooting. So, immediately I was like, wow, we are in new territory right here.
How and why did the ranch hand kill the wolf?
So, according to Nottingham, this was a situation that had been building for quite a while. She has this giant ranch, and she said last summer she suspected wolves had killed several of her livestock, but said CPW refused to confirm the deaths. And that is something that we hear from a lot of ranchers. And she said that by fall, when she brought her cows back, she was 60 calves short.
60?
If that is
wow.
true, yeah. If that's true, that's an economic loss of $180,000. That's not chump change, right? She said CPW's response was minimal. They provided a range rider for the summer, but he was inexperienced. And then in October, CPW confirmed wolves had killed 3 calves on her ranch. And then one thing led to another. Eventually, her ranch hand, she said, saw a wolf chasing a cow and calf and shot it.
Tracy, the main reason wildlife officials would not let Susan Nottingham and her workers kill the wolf, at least according to her, has to do with something called a carcass dump on her property. What's a carcass dump and how did it play into this situation?
Yeah, so these are known as carcass dumps or carcass pits. I've seen them on several different ranches. And what it is in a lot of rural places in Colorado, there's no place to take like a dead horse, right? Or you go hunting and you have whatever left over after you've gotten the meat off this animal or whatever you're going to take. And so a lot of these giant ranches have these pits where they throw these remains. And there's been a lot of controversy over these pits because they are an attractant for wolves, right? And so, you can't have lured a wolf onto your property, either inadvertently or on purpose, with one of these carcass pits and then ask to kill it.
We should note that neither Susan Nottingham, the rancher, nor Colorado Parks and Wildlife would comment on the case when you reached out.
That is true. I did talk to Susan, And she said that her lawyer had advised her not to talk to the media. And I'm in constant contact with Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and they were like, yeah, no, we can't talk to you about this.
Do you get a sense that Susan Nottingham sending this letter to federal wildlife officials was sort of a plea for help in dealing with state wildlife managers?
I don't like to speculate. I have not asked her this question, but I mean, why else would you do this so publicly?
The first years of wolf reintroduction in Colorado have been messy at times. Voters asked for wolves to be reintroduced, but so far several wolves have died and some ranchers have struggled to protect their livestock. What does Susan Nottingham's story about a wolf being killed say about the status of wolf reintroduction in Colorado at this moment?
Oh, Brad, that is such a big question and such a good question. I think it points to desperation.
Hmm.
I think it points to a rancher being at her wit's end and feeling like Parks and Wildlife is not doing maybe what was laid out in the wolf management plan to protect both the wolves and ranchers. Because wolves are a federally endangered species and they're an experiment in Colorado. They're an experimental population. We don't know exactly how it's going to go. We have a lot of ranchers in Colorado. How are we going to make this bearable for them? And now we're here, and I know that there have been lots and lots of problems and conflicts between ranchers and Parks and Wildlife. And I think this is an inflection point, and I think the outcome is going to set a precedent.
To go back into this public feedback process that helped bring this incident to light, do you have a sense federal officials are looking to take over or stop Colorado's wolf program entirely? And could this story about the ranch play into that?
Well, I don't think it's a sense. I think that they have indicated very strongly that they are not happy with what they're hearing from ranchers in this state. You know, the new director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Brian Nesbitt, basically, he stopped Parks and Wildlife from getting wolves from British Columbia. And then he said, you're not going to get wolves anywhere. And I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to know that the bulk of the comments are going to come from people who are not happy with the way things are going. And so to me, all things point to like they are looking at really scrutinizing this program and saying in a very serious way, do we need to shut this thing down?
Tracy Ross covers wolf reintroduction for the Colorado Sun. There's a link to her story in our show notes and at KUNC.org. In other reintroduction news, Colorado Parks and Wildlife announced on Saturday they had killed a wolf in Routt County that they believe killed 22 sheep over the past year. Find more on that story at KUNC.org. That's it today for In the NoCo. I'm Brad Turner. Thanks for listening.